you can share with other people so they don't have to go through that you've been through because you already have all that experience now.
You are not your thoughts, you are the observer of your thoughts. So understand, bring yourself to that place that you are watching your thoughts and you can have that perspective of, isn't that interesting?
Tracy, welcome.
Thank you, Farhan. Thank you for having me.
Most welcome. So, people who don't know much about you, I know you're a yoga instructor. What else you do?
So I also am executive director for a local nonprofit called the Sattva Project. And we exist to provide access to yoga for all, fostering healing, harmony, community, and personal transformation.
Nice. How long you been doing as a yoga teacher?
We've, with this project,
Yes.
specifically, about a year and a half.
And as a yoga instructor, how long you been doing that?
About 4 years.
So, tell me a little bit about your background story. I know you have some issues with the substance abuse or alcohol abuse. How you're coping with that with now as a yoga instructor?
Yeah, so I have struggled with alcohol most of my life, probably all of my life since I started consuming it. If I look back and I'm honest about it, I think I took my first drink at 16, and I knew from that first drink that I liked it. I thought I liked it. When I got into college, drinking habitually and in excess is very common. I fell right into that. And I went to UGA, and I never thought I had a problem there, although if I look back and I'm honest, I know that I did. But because I was around a lot of other college kids doing the same thing, it never felt like I was isolated having a problem. I was in really good company there where that was concerned. Then after college, I continued binge drinking and did that up until I got pregnant with my first child. When I was 24, I think I was, when I got pregnant with Peyton. I stopped for that time with no problem. Biology sort of kicks in and helps with that a little bit. But pretty soon after she was out of my body, I picked up drinking again. And every time I picked up drinking again, I got worse and worse, and it was more prevalent in my life. When my children were small, my girlfriends who also had children, we would plan our play dates around so that we could have, mommy juice or wine or, things like that around it as well. I think my drinking kind of came to a head where I really realized it was a problem. I think my family and my ex-husband and people closest to me knew it was a problem before I admitted to myself that it was. But during COVID, my daughter was working as a paramedic at Grady Hospital in Atlanta. It's a high trauma hospital, the biggest trauma hospital in the Southeast. And at the beginning of COVID, when we didn't know what was going on or how easily it could kill you, we didn't know how easy that it might kill you. I know I was watching CNN at my house from morning till night, worrying about who my daughter might be picking up in the ambulance. I'm grateful she was helping, but also concerned for my child. And as the whole world was kind of watching it move across the world and come to the West, I was drinking vodka in my bed watching this. Or it started maybe as wine in the morning, but I would switch to vodka until it got to the point where I was having, and I know the number because I would count the swigs, but I would take 7 swigs of vodka, and I was hiding it. I didn't tell that with my husband. I wasn't hiding it well because obviously he could tell, but I was drinking excessively, and then I would pass out for 3 hours at a time, and then I would get up and do that again, and I would do that around the clock. I would get up at 3 a.m., wander to the freezer and do that again.
3 a.m. in the morning?
Oh, yeah. This was 24/7. This was 24/7.
So my question is, how this all started, like drinking issue. I mean, I know you were in college, and then what basically triggers all that?
I think part of it is hereditary. I think part of it for me was, childhood trauma, things that happened to me as a child that I didn't know about, I wasn't aware of. I kind of thought might have happened, but I didn't have a distinct memory until I was, 47 about it, and that's around sexual child abuse as a child. I think that that was a repressed memory. That might have been something that triggered it for me, and that's kind of the way it can sometimes show up. And for me, it showed up first, or that was something significant that I think led to it. I also hereditary. I have some alcoholics in my family, and then another thing that might fall into that is an eating disorder, which I had throughout middle school and most of high school, some of college. For me, it was bulimia, so I would eat, but I would purge, and that, research I've done around that is that that was a way that I could control something in my life. I might not be able to control much, but I could control what I took in, what I consumed, and I could control the size and shape of my body. I think I dissociated from my body for a long time.
So it's basically because of your childhood trauma also trigger all that too, meaning drinking issue. So now
It's layered. It's not just one thing.
it's a multiple
It's
things.
multiple
Yeah.
things. I think I also have a personality that's kind of more is more and less is a bore. So I think I like that. I think in college I liked being somebody who would, do whatever or do some, be the party girl, or I think I liked that label on me. So I fed into it myself a lot.
Yeah, okay. So, and yoga thing you started, and how you coping your basically alcoholism with yoga now. I know you're sober for the last 2 years now,
A year and 9 months.
year and 9 months. So
This time.
do you think that yoga is helping you with that?
I absolutely think that that's a part of why we started this organization. Every person who's affiliated with it has either been affected personally or tangentially through a family member or a loved one with either substance abuse or incarceration or instances with the law in some shape, way, or form. And all of us believe that yoga has saved us in some way or has been a leading agent in helping us to restore ourselves to health. When I went through my yoga certification for my first 200-hour program, I was in the middle of a separation, or starting a separation from my now ex-husband, and really leaning into so much of what you're taught in yoga teacher training isn't about leading a class of students, but it's about peeling back your own onion of all of the things that have happened to you in your life that have shaped the way that you show up in the world now. And so that was the first time in my life, and that was at 47, I think. Yeah. That was the first time in my life I'd ever given myself the time to sit and do that. It was one of the first times I think I was ever even curious about doing that. But once I started, I couldn't stop. I'm obsessed with learning, with going to therapy, with learning about therapy, with somatic movement, with sitting in stillness so that I can listen, which these are all things affiliated with yoga too, but sitting in stillness so that I can listen for my, I'm going to call it soul self. It gives me connection with my higher power. Something I also I didn't know if I believed in prior to yoga, much less took the time to sit with and listen to what messages might be coming.
So when you say sitting still, meaning like in a meditation kind of position.
Any kind of stillness. So yeah, it could be meditation, but I find stillness to being in nature when I'm hiking, or just being out, like I shared before we started, just looking at the stars, but not with a phone in my hand, not with music going, just feeling the pulse of life and letting myself settle into that.
So someone who's basically right now listening to this and also having this substance abuse, whether it's a drugs or alcohol, what do you basically tell them? Hey, you can basically recover this kind of a thing quicker, faster through meditation, through yoga, because if you go to somebody else or like a physician, they're just gonna give you drugs, meaning like medication, the medicine.
Yeah. And I have no problem with medication or pharmaceuticals to help. If you need to stop the bleeding, stop the bleeding. However you need to get there. However, it's a Band-Aid, right?
Yeah.
There's always a root of things like this, and it's worth getting to. I'm not going to tell you it's faster or it's quicker, and that's not the goal of yoga, and that's not the goal of healing, to do it quick and fast, and it's never going to be quick and fast. If it's quick and fast, you probably haven't uncovered enough. I think this is a lifetime of work, but I do feel that yoga, sitting in that stillness, relocating, I think at the bottom of addiction, for me anyway, was somewhere along the way in my life, I began searching externally for answers that could only be found within. And I never made a home for myself inside. And so I think I was always longing for that, longing for an anchor, a stability. And for me, yoga opened the door to that. Yoga opened the door to this stillness. It started, I started doing yoga because I wanted to get a great ass, I think that's the way a lot of people arrive on the mat. That's the last thing I care about now around yoga. You very quickly, you get in that room, and it might be, the classes I teach are heated, and it might be a strenuous class, but what keeps you coming back, and you're like, oh, that was challenging. But what's challenging is so often not the asana, not the posture, but there's things that it teaches you that you end up learning to sit with yourself. That's what the challenge is, the sitting and understanding. Like, it gives you structure, it gives you discipline, it gives you a set of values.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was actually going to ask you about, the struggles, because you have to go through all these struggles to come to this point right now that you are basically trying to control kind of your mind and your body with this yoga thing.
Yeah.
And what are the struggles basically you've been through to come to this point now?
So mine, as I mentioned, some things that happened to me in the past as a child. And then the eating disorder part, am I going through a divorce? I'm not special. Everybody goes through all of these kinds of things. Everybody has trials and tribulations, and I believe that, as humans, we are going to resist any kind of change as long as we're comfortable, even if our status quo is uncomfortable, if it's what we know, like you return to the demon that kind of a thing. I think unless our hand is forced, a lot of the time, there are very few people who quit drinking because they're just like, I can look down the road and see that this is not going to be a good thing for me. That's just not how we work as humans. You have to hit some kind of a threshold of tolerance that you're unwilling to tolerate your own behavior. Like, I got sick of my own bullshit.
That's what I'm trying to take you there. Like, you said, okay, enough is enough.
Yeah.
What was the point, that turning point for you? Okay,
I think for me, well, I had gained 30 pounds. I was missing my life. I was watching beautiful days go by without participating in them. I could see looks of disappointment in my daughter's eyes, that I was wasting away. I remember one night in particular, I was drinking vodka, my body had said no. So my body immediately, the minute it touched like I tried to swallow it, my body threw it back up. And I sat there for 10 minutes, not to calm myself down and make myself okay. I sat there for 10 minutes waiting for it to pass so that I could do that again. Like that was a moment where I realized it took that to realize, okay, you've reached a level of insanity here around this. I knew it wasn't working for a long time, but I think anybody struggling with addiction, you become really good at lying to yourself. And you're already lying to everybody else. You become manipulative. You cover lie after lie after lie after lie in order to sustain your habit. You're sneaking things. And so you get really good at lying, including to yourself.
I think that's basically sometimes as a human being, when you start lying to yourself too much, then your unconscious basically tells you, hey, something needs to be changed.
Oh, yeah. I felt so out of integrity with myself, Like I did not. I think I started out, and part of my reason for drinking was I didn't have an internal love for myself. I was good at putting on a mask like I did. I think everybody believed that I did. Like, you have this going for you, this going for you. She's got to love herself, but my behavior pointed to, an opposite reality. I didn't have that for myself.
So do you think that because of your problem, is that why, you don't have to give me the details if you don't feel like it, that about your marriage, that basically you got divorced, and what kind of relationship you have with your kids now?
I have a really good relationship with both of my daughters. They don't, at least from what they tell me, and they could be trying to shelter me a little from their feelings around it. But whenever I bring it up, because I want to bring it up and clear the air if there's anything to be cleared, so I bring it up on multiple occasions, Is there anything you want to talk to me about? Did my behavior affect you? Mm-hmm. In what adverse ways did my behavior affect you? Because I want the chance to repair, They're the two most important people to me in my life. But they don't throw it back in my face, and they haven't really shared a whole lot about it, They're also still pretty young. They're 27 and 24 and very, very busy in their own lives. So I don't know how much time they're spending thinking about this now. And thankfully, my grandsons haven't ever seen it. So I'm glad for that. Really grateful for that.
So you have two grandsons?
I have two.
Okay.
Yeah.
How's those relationship with you now, the grandsons?
They're good. I don't get to see them as often as I want to because now I live here. But Ashton is the oldest, and he's 3, and he's adorable. And then the other one is Ren, and he was born in April. I love them both very much, and they're close to me when I see them, but I don't get to see them all that often.
So if someone is, like you mentioned, is struggling with all this, what would you advise them to start with to basically take care of themselves?
Yeah, so the thing that has been a saving grace to me, so this is not my first time trying to quit. I've tried to quit multiple times, and I think that's important to say because a lot of people are shamed by relapse. They have a lot of shame that their willpower wasn't strong enough to last and kick their habit the first time, but it seldom is. I'm a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, AA, and I didn't want to be. I didn't want to go. I resisted that for a long time, but that's part of, for me, why I relapsed, because I was trying to white knuckle it through and heal in isolation. I'm absolutely convinced that healing doesn't happen in isolation. You need the stories of other people around you in order to mirror your own experience, in order to get other perspectives, in order to understand you are not alone, and to kind of free yourself of guilt and shame. That's what the rooms of AA do for me. I don't have a desire to drink today in this moment. But there are tons of other things that come up in my life that are irritations or things that I'll have a resentment over or that are, ruffling my feathers in some way. And so it just helps me to be in those rooms with other people who have irritations, just like everybody who's not in those rooms do. And to recognize that I'm not alone. Like it feels like a cool glass of water in hell to know you're not alone. To hear somebody who maybe doesn't look like you, is maybe not your same age, maybe doesn't have the same views as you, but out of their mouth comes a story you could have said. It's extremely comforting. It's extremely comforting.
So the community, basically, you're saying that you have to be in the middle, the community kind of thing, the networking kind of thing that basically help you to recover faster compared to you trying to do with your own.
Yes, I believe so. And I believe it's talking, which I think talking to other
Sharing.
people and finding, sharing stories, finding that commonality is really important. I also believe, and that's why community is part of our mission, having the community aspect. I also believe somatic movement is extremely important. So you need to move energy out of your body when you're frustrated, when you're irritated, when you're feeling a trigger come on that is pulling you to drink.
What do you mean, like do like walk, exercise or something,
It can
moving?
be whatever you want. So my go-to tools, and this is the thing, I think you need to have lots of tools in the toolbox to help you. But my go-to things are I like to go for a walk or be in the woods. A bilateral eye movement mimics EMDR. It's a kind of therapy. So when you're walking, that happens. So it settles, it balances your brain and settles your body. For me, it's dancing. So I am not a good dancer, and I don't necessarily dance in public all that often. But almost every single night, I have a mirror in my living room, and I will roll out my yoga mat, and I will put on whatever kind of music I feel in the moment, and I will dance. And it's not dance to be like a certain kind of dance. It's more just moving, literally moving my body and breathing and getting out anxious energy. I have a lot of anxiety I carry around, or when I'm worried or something like that. If I put on music and I just move my body for 20 minutes, the result is I feel centered again.
So you like you feel peace?
Yeah, peace might be too strong of a word. I don't necessarily feel peace. I mean, I think peace is a big goal, but I feel centered.
Okay.
I feel like if I was spiraling out in my mental thoughts, I spent a lot of time in my head. And if I was spiraling on something, that's now calm. I feel good enough to be able to go to sleep, or I feel that I have my power back to respond rather than react, which is very powerful because I used to be just a huge reactor. When you're that unbalanced and you're on alcohol all the time, or you're crashing from alcohol all the time and your energy is this or this, but never here,
Level, yeah.
you become a big reactor.
So do you have any routines like that you follow in the morning or in the evening?
I do, and I just want to admit, like, I will be, I can be, sometimes I'm really, really good at my routines, and other times I'm not. But that's also when I get out of my routines, that is a really good signal that, like what we call in Alcoholics Anonymous, that you're off the beam. Mm-hmm. And that goes back to the Sattva project too. So Sattva is a Sanskrit word for balance. And so when you're unbalanced, you go into Rajas or Tamas, and those are extremes of high or low energy. And I forget what I was just saying there, but I want to get back into balance.
You're talking about your routine that you
Yes, thank you. So my routines help me to stay in that balance. And when I'm not doing them, I know that's a clue that I am heading off the beam. I'm going to start heading off the beam. So I need to right the ship, if you will. So my morning routines, I wake up by 5 or 5:30 every morning.
You already joined the 5 a.m. club.
Yeah. That's just how I'm built. It's not a discipline thing. That's just what my body naturally does. But I also like to have a couple to few hours in the day to myself before the world gets a hold of me and I start following along with the agenda of the world. I get to have that time to have some empower myself to set the day how I need it to be so that I can stay in balance. So I will have warm water with lemon. That's how I start my morning before I have coffee. I will meditate. Sometimes it'll only be 5 minutes, sometimes it'll be 30. I like to read. I read lots of different things from spiritual, yogic spirituality books to therapy books to, well, those are what I mainly focus on. If I have time in the morning, I go to a yoga class or I'll go for a walk. I like being outside in the sun, at least getting 10 minutes of morning sun in the morning. Sometimes I'll journal, but that's rare, and I usually do that more at night. But I have a tiny bit of a night routine. But the one I stick to mostly is the one that I do in the morning.
So when you're doing your meditation or you're just sitting still, what kind of thoughts are going through in your mind? Like, maybe, don't know if I can do this for a long time, or what I'm doing is probably, I don't know, is helping me or not. We talk like negative thoughts.
Yeah.
How you overcome all those kind of things.
You don't stop your thoughts. Your thoughts are incessant.
Well, yeah.
So, we don't get to stop our thoughts, or at least I haven't been able to stop my thoughts.
Not to stop thought, but like trying not to basically being going on a negative side rather than being, because
Yeah. So in yoga, we like a frequent analogy that people say is, you are not your thoughts. You are the observer of your thoughts. So understand, bring yourself to that place that you are watching your thoughts, and you can have that perspective of, isn't that interesting? So you're watching your thoughts with compassion and with zero judgment. So that's one thing that, yoga teaches you. Don't get in your head about the sentiments that you're having about your thoughts. Just watch them with compassion and understand, this is the analogy that they use a lot, that you are not the weather, meaning you are not if your thoughts are clouds in a clear blue sky, you are not the clouds, you're the sky. So the sky is always constant and blue, but that's what you are. But your thoughts are just that, they're passing. So the idea is to compassionately acknowledge them and then let them go.
So
some days are better than others.
Well, yeah, I mean, of course, it's gonna be kind of a roller coaster right now until, I mean, you are actually been through a lot, and then you came out, kind of strong now, and
sometimes.
But yeah, I mean,
I'm still healing. I don't think anybody's ever done healing. You can get closer. You can get closer and closer to it, I think, but I don't know that any of us are completely ever finished. I think it's a lifetime of work.
Yeah, of course it's a work in progress kind of thing.
Yeah.
So what else for the fun part? Let's talk about that.
Okay.
I know we're talking about too much negative right now.
No, it's fine.
But let's talk about fun part. So what do you do for, to entertain basically your thought process, or having a fun kind of thing? What kind of things that you do that helps you also to be, balanced?
To be balanced. So I think nature has always been one of my greatest teachers, and a place that I found my higher power before I was able or willing to name it. And when you talk about peace, that's the first place I've ever found peace is in nature, being in the mountains or being in the trees or being near water. Those places still me before I understood what it was about energy and the connectivity of every living being. But that pace of nature, which is not the pace of our society or our culture, that helps to still me. So I like to get out. I like to get out in nature as much as I can.
So do you believe, first of all, do you follow any kind of religion or just more spirituality kind
Yeah.
of thing? I think
I
it seems like to me more spiritual than label any kind of religion.
yeah, I don't subscribe to any religion. That's just it hasn't been for me. But I absolutely subscribe to spirituality. I
The
do
higher power.
to a higher power. Yeah. And it's my belief that there's, one for everybody, that one that's the same for, it's the one thing, no matter how we pray or meditate or reach it. But it's not, I'm interested in all religions. I'm interested in learning because so many of them are all that I know about. Not that I know too much, but have, beautiful, beautiful lessons and teachings. And I feel that many of them mirror each other. I do study the Bhagavad Gita with some people from my yoga studio, and I do practice kirtan, which is basically chanting. It's part of bhakti yoga, which is just devotional yoga.
So you're talking about the spiritual scripture from Hinduism, the Gita. That's what you're talking about. Okay.
Yes, so and I've only been studying that for about a year, so it's an extremely dense learning scripture, but and the people I surround myself with who know it a lot better than I do, but its teachings reach me.
So what draws you to start learning about Gita?
So this is yoga's a very interesting entity to me, because what draws me to it and the path I followed along, may not draw you or may not draw anybody else who is following their own path in yoga. Everybody I know who is on their own path in yoga goes down very different paths. I think it finds you. So asana is the movement, the postures, right? That's one of 8 limbs of yoga. There's a lot of other things that go into yoga, but I think as you start on your mat, then something else, another breadcrumb will arrive in the trail. Another synchronicity, if you will. You'll meet somebody who will mention something that interests you, or you'll be dealing with something, and then somebody pops into your life that has a solution or a book or a way of thinking or a philosophy that you'll be interested in, and then you'll pick up that breadcrumb and explore that, and that will lead to the next breadcrumb, to the next one. So my path has been very circuitous around that, but it's different for everybody. Not everybody's drawn to studying the Gita or doing kirtan just because they do yoga. I know lots of people who are not. But I do believe, I read something about how yoga is not a religion, but it will draw you closer to whatever it is that you do believe in. I do think that's very true. I think at the end of the day, it's going to bring you to an eternal home within yourself, whatever that means for you.
So you're saying you're studying Gita for almost a year now? Mm-hmm. So do you, what's I would say maybe 1 or 2, you can give me examples that you learn from Gita that really hits hard on you, meaning like, yeah, this is what I was looking for, and that's...
Well, I think, the Gita centers around a story of Arjuna. He's the main character in the story, and he's having to go into this battle, and he's been practicing his whole life as an archer, and he's just the best one, and he has to go into this battle, and he's supposed to lead his side of the army into the battle, and he gets there, and he realizes the people on the other side, it's like peppered with people he knows. Like there's some of his teachers, and there's some of his cousins, and there's some of, there's all these people that he loves on the opposing side. And he's with this charioteer, Krishna, which is just an avatar of God. And he looks at him, and he's like, I can't do this. I can't do this. These are people that I love. But it's his job, it's his dharma, and then Krishna is having to talk to him about like that it's okay, that there's a reason for this. But the whole thing is about how we all have an individual path, and we all have an individual purpose here, and kind of the idea of surrendering to that path, of service, whatever it might look like for you, and following it without fear, and trusting that you will be held through it.
Trusting in yourself or trusting in some higher
No,
power?
trusting in some higher power, but also, and I don't want to go too far into that, because this is my belief, and I don't want anybody to think that they have to believe something like this in order to be a part of yoga. This is just my path through it. But yeah, trusting that that you are being led, and that there is something supporting you in that if you surrender to the flow of life.
So, I mean, I know you don't subscribe to any religion, but this is, of course, you said this, the scripture Gita. You're born as a Christian, right?
Yeah, Christian so far as I think. So my mom is one of 10 kids, and she went to Catholic school all growing up. So she did not like Catholic school. It was very punishing. It was very centered on punishing. And she has some just awful stories.
Punishing in what way?
Well, at one time she was about 7 years old, and she was being taught about we all have a guardian angel, and you need to make room for your guardian angel in your life. And she's 7. So she's taking that extremely literally. And so she's moving over in her little chair, trying to make room for her guardian angel. And she falls on the floor out of her chair, making room. And a nun came over and smacked her hands repeatedly with a ruler, the tops of her finger bones with a ruler. And so it's punishing. And
punishing because she fell over, or punishing?
Punishing because she fell out of her chair.
Okay.
Yeah. And punitive. So I think she viewed it as very punitive. She still wanted to believe in God, but the way it was served up to her was a way that was hurtful, even violent. Mm-hmm. So we weren't raised that way. We were not raised in a Catholic church. We would go to church sometimes on Christmas or sometimes on Easter. Our family, this was my family. We lived near Stone Mountain, Georgia, and they used to have a sunrise service on Easter. So you could climb up the mountain in the dark, and then they'd have this sunrise service. So you're watching the sunrise on the top of this mountain. It was really, really beautiful. But how my family did it was we brought blankets, and we stopped at Dunkin' Donuts, and we brought the donuts up there. And my dad was like, God's fine with us for not going to church the rest of the year because we hike up here in the dark on a mountain. So we did not, religion was not a very big part of my family growing up.
Do you think that most religions are overrated?
Are overrated?
Yes.
No, I don't. I think they've been used. I think religion's actually, and I don't know. This is me speculating, so I don't know, and nobody does. But I feel like they all came from a place of really wanting to help offer this framework for how to live a life with less suffering. We all suffer, but there are ways you can help yourself to suffer less. Get out of your own way, kind of a thing. I think at the root of all religions is love, and trying to create a better time for yourself while you're here, so you don't have more suffering. But I do think that mankind has a tendency to use things like that as a way for personal gain or as a way to manipulate and control. And I feel like that has happened a lot.
Yeah. No, I know what you're saying. I mean, religion, of course, any religion it teaches you good things, but sometimes it's the people, I think, make it kind of nitpick things. And, I think last time when we met, we were talking about, God gets so much blame on a lot of things. Yeah. And there was a very famous quote from C.S. Lewis. He was an English author. Mm-hmm. He said, life with God is not immunity to difficulties, it's peace in difficulties. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
So, meaning
Yes.
like if you think that you're a religious person, it's not going to immune you to difficulties because you are
No.
close to the God. It's just the peace. Okay, there is some power
It's a tool in the
who, yeah,
toolbox,
is going to
right?
help me to go through that.
Yes. It's going to offer comfort in the tough times and a way to help yourself that to me is very real. My spirituality or my finally leaning into a higher power has helped me to me personally, I feel like at the basis of all of it is love. That we're here to love each other, that God is love, whatever that means to you. But it's helped me to, because I see the world through that lens now. And this comes into AA too, which also has its roots in all of those kinds of things as well. But I think it's our job to love and to serve others. And that's like why we're here. And so I do seek out opportunities every day to do those things and to be the most loving person that I can be towards others, because I have needed grace and compassion, and I want to offer that to everybody that I see. I feel like that's kind of what yoga does too, because you come to this place where you have learned to love yourself after however much time. You have learned to love yourself and you understand what comes from that. For me, it's this outpouring of love. So I believe it's an energy frequency that comes from me now, that's palpable to people, that they feel safe with me. And I never felt safe with myself until I found this self-love for myself, which I'm still working on. But I think it emanates from me more. And then when I behave from the frequency of love, I feel like the reward that I get is I see beauty everywhere, everywhere. In
So,
every situation, I can see beauty in it, and it makes my life feel magical.
I think also because the way you are, I think that's your character, that you try to be, like you said, love and all that. There's also a very famous line from one of the 7th century Islamic personality called Imam Ali.
Mm-hmm.
He said two things will define your character: your patience when you have nothing, and your attitude when you have everything.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
So, people,
Yeah,
I mean, take religion and mold it and according to their own belief system. And I think
yeah,
that's where the
yeah.
problem is. I mean, all religion are beautiful.
Preferences, right?
Yeah,
That goes back to
yeah.
we all have preferences, and and why should yours be, or why should mine be any more important than yours? Like, to getting beyond that thought of me and what I prefer, and understanding that we're all here with our own preferences and everything, and I'm no more important than you are.
And also, that's also a very a mindset kind of thing, because I see that in religion, different religions too. Even, I practice Islam, and Islam is the same way too. Like, if you are more close to religion, you are better than you and me, because you are, according to them, they're very close to the God now.
Yeah,
But that's the thing. Who's gonna
that's a
decide
very
that?
egotistical
Yeah,
thing too.
exactly.
You can get locked in, and I have to check myself or have other people check me there too, because it's easy to slip into things like that.
Yeah.
It might not be that noticeable, but there could be other ways that it can insidiously, you think you're on a right path, and then you find yourself, oh, suddenly I'm on a righteous path now. And that's
I'm a
very
righteous
different.
path, and Farhan and Tracy, they don't believe this thing what I believe, and so
Yeah,
they are not equal to me now.
right, right.
And again, when we talk about equality, humanity, again, I refer to this, the Imam Ali, that he said there's only two type of people in this world: either they're your brother in religion, or they're equal to your humanity.
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah. So people basically,
Yeah, that's the thing. That's part of our like core belief with sattva too, is when we're teaching, other people. And this is why we really like for our teachers to have gone through something, gone through something that made them look at themselves with new eyes, new humble eyes. Because when you're teaching, and you'll find this in anything, but sometimes people can teach or they're perceived as, a guru or as an exalted above their students kind of a thing. But that's not how we teach. We have a belief that, when you are coming and meeting with another human soul, be just another human soul. Meet people in that place of shared humanity as
Equal,
equals.
yes, yeah. That's what we're missing right now in 21st
World.
century in year 2025.
So that is also at the core of what I believe, and I think our whole team believes about sattva, is that when you do spend that time on your mat, and you have this stillness and you're going through somatic movement, you're going through these postures that are moving energy through the body, which traditionally, and where yoga comes from the East, and traditionally you do the asana, you do the postures so that you can clear your body of energy so that you can sit still for meditation. It's just a preparation for meditation. But once you get to that and you have this place, you locate this place of steady calm within yourself, that's what creates that self-compassion, that self-love. And then you find this strong desire to pass that on to other people, and it has this ripple effect that doesn't end. And to me, it's a way to peace. It's a way to peace on earth, not just you find that peace within and then you give it away.
And that's the word you use, safa?
Sattva.
How you spell that?
Sattva. V is a Victor.
And what does that mean?
It means balance or harmony.
Okay. And it's
Yeah.
Sanskrit,
Sanskrit.
Sanskrit,
Yeah,
Sanskrit word. Okay. I kind of like it, safa.
Yeah, it's pretty.
It is
It's a pretty
pretty.
word.
And I know you were actually mentioning that you were working also thinking about working as in a to teach yoga in a prison. That's one of your
Yes,
projects.
yes, we've been doing that.
Please, yeah.
We've been doing that for about a year and a half. So our board president, Ramsey, his brother is currently incarcerated. He's very close to his brother. And Ramsey is somebody that I look up to in a few different ways. But he's younger than me, but he's my teacher, a spiritual teacher of mine and a dear friend. So when he is, again, you go into these things and you find these things because it's something you're dealing with in your personal life. So Ramsey was struggling with his brother being in prison and not being able to help him. So he's trying to think, what, and yoga has helped him. As a matter of fact, he and his brother were on similar, this is his words, not mine, were on similar paths. And then Ramsey broke away, met some people in California who were doing yoga, taking care of their bodies, but still doing cool things too, when he was younger. And he decided to go down that path. So he went down that path. So when his brother got arrested, Ramsey was just deeply heartbroken about it, and was wondering what he could do locally, incorporating yoga. And since he's not even in the same state as his brother, how can he do something to help people like his brother? So he was the one who went into Hamilton County Jail and Detention Center first, met with a woman named Wendy Harris, who is over all of the programs for inmate programs there. She's another phenomenal woman, and she is on our board. She believes in rehabilitation, not punishment. And she wants to help everybody in there to, reach their higher, reach whatever they want to reach. So she helps them get their GED or cosmetology school. I think they have like a welding program. They have lots of different programs, one of which is our yoga program. But Ramsey's the one who met with her and got that started about a year ago.
And that's in this area, or?
Yes,
Okay.
Hamilton County. So it's about 20 minutes away from
Okay.
downtown Chattanooga. And there's women and men there, and we have 2 teachers there. Sean is one of our teachers. That's a female, Shawnice. She's phenomenal. She teaches the women there, and then Ramsey teaches the men there, and then I go with Sean sometimes.
So, with the other project you were talking about, the SAFA, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the one you were working on it. And those are just basically to teach yoga to anybody, or there's like specific community?
No, so the Sattva project is what we do at Hamilton County Jail.
Okay.
And then we also we go into places of incarceration. We also go into places of residential substance abuse recovery. So we currently I teach this afternoon at CADIS, which is a local residential substance abuse recovery home. And then we work with the women at Launchpad, which is it's 5 homes, beautiful homes in Chattanooga that house 50 women in various stages of recovery. And that is a very regimented program as well, very loving and regimented program, where they also offer lots of opportunities for women to do different things and get back into the job market and get back on their feet however they need to. But there's rules around attending a certain number of meetings per week, having a job, paying a certain amount of rent, keeping the house clean, being a good roommate with your housemates, stuff like that. And then we also teach at the Day Reporting Center. So when people leave Hamilton County Jail and Detention Center and they're on probation, they can go to this center that has all of these reentry services, all kinds of reentry services and therapeutic services. And they will go there, take our 6-week program, and they can get time knocked off of parole for that. So we have that bridge program. So once they leave the jail, they still want to do yoga. They can come take yoga also for free at the Day Reporting Center. And then we also have another community program. I chair an AA meeting on Mondays at 7:30 a.m. And directly after that, we have a yoga program or a yoga class that anybody from any of our programs or any of the AA kind of communities can come, and any of the anonymous programs can come join. And then we just started a partnership with the Chattanooga Public Library, where we will do community classes there once a week and feed into their programming whatever they're theming on that month. We will also theme on, and that will be a place that people from our programs can go, but also just the general public. And then I just wrote a grant for to a local organization called Arts Build that supports arts in Hamilton County. And we will partner with an organization called Rhyme and Chat, which does literary arts and spoken word poetry and poetry clinics. And so we will take our program that we have at Hamilton County Jail. We will offer 45 minutes of yoga, and it will be themed to whatever theme we have. It's a 6-week course. It'll be themed to whatever theme we have. It might be resilience or self-compassion or courage or whatever. So we'll theme the yoga class on that. The postures, what we talk about, will be all around that. And then we'll turn it over to our partner nonprofit organization, Rhyme and Chat, and they'll talk about a specific poem that has to do with courage or resilience or self-compassion. And then we'll do some kind of an art project around that. Like it might be depict yourself in collage, words and colors and things that speak to who you are or what's going on inside of your body right now in relation to that topic. So we're adding that somatic movement, which is helping moving emotions out of the body. And then we have that art component, which is then taking and processing all that stuff that you've moved out of the body and helping you integrate it and make sense of it for yourself through creative expression, which is another way of clearing your body mind.
So let me ask you this, what is the hardest part in your recovery right now you're going through that to basically that way you can help somebody who's listening to this, because I'm pretty sure they're going through the same way or maybe.
Yeah, so like I said, at least right now, I do not feel that I want to pick up a drink. But when you're an addict, it's never just one thing. So for me, we all have ways of numbing out or zoning out of our lives, of ignoring pain or emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And so that can show up in being a workaholic, over exercising, overeating, scrolling on your phone, watching TV. There are a million ways that we all numb out. And so for me, I have to watch the other ways, because just because I'm not drinking doesn't mean that I'm not acting out in some other way or ignoring my emotions. So I have to watch my habits, and some days are better than others, because I have off that list I just ticked off, I have 2 or 3 that I will go on a loop on, and sometimes I'll let myself loop on them because I don't feel I have another alternative, but at least I'm not drinking and doing damage to my relationships and my body. But for me, it's recognizing, hey, you're looping now, so maybe take 10 minutes and sit with yourself. And, I like to place my hand on my heart and feel my heartbeat, because that helps me drop into my body and out of my head, and give myself space to understand, what emotion are you feeling, Tracy? Like, what are you feeling that you're trying to ignore right now? What's the root of that? And can you spend a few minutes here feeling that? Mm-hmm. Can you allow yourself to feel? Because unless I allow myself to feel, I'm going to continue to deal with it. I have to feel it, acknowledge it, and let it go.
So do you do journaling? Like, do you write?
I do journaling. It's not an all the time part of my healing process, but I do it. I've been through this book called The Artist's Way twice now. It's like a 10-week course, self-led course. I actually was led by a woman named Lauren Richardson, who's a dear friend of mine through Yoga Landing, once through it, and then I did it once on my own. But part of that is morning pages, and so the idea with morning pages, and it's a really great tool, is that you're not writing for pretty writing. You're not writing for it to be cohesive. You're not writing for anything other than to put your hand down on a page and not lift it until you have 3 full pages written. And what you're doing, it's a form of meditation or prayer, if you will, because what you're doing is you're starting your day out, getting out all of that crap in your head, mm-hmm. all that stuff that's spinning. You're getting it down on paper. And so in a way, if you are a spiritual or religious person, in a way, this is a prayer to God. These are the things that are bothering me right now. Please take it away. Or if you're not, then it's just a tool to get things out of your head and on paper, so that you're not carrying that around with you through your day, worrying and spinning and not paying attention to what the beauty of the present. So it can be that manifestation or prayer piece, or it can be just a way to empty your mind and settle yourself. And then over time, too, you're not even, in the artist way, you're not even supposed to look at your pages until you're completely finished with the program, or almost to the end. But then you can look back, and they tell you this, and it's interesting. Like, isn't it interesting how much you complain about the same shit day after day after day after day? You're saying the same thing, So it's also just this awareness piece that you get from it, about how cyclical our thoughts are.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, so it is actually, when this is okay, when you put your thoughts on the piece of paper, it gets clear.
Yes.
And I think that's what basically helped a lot of people, because, this is, if you have a really complicated math equation, can you just, solve it in your brain? No, you can't.
Yeah.
You have to basically write it down.
And see it.
To see it.
Yeah.
To solve it. And I
Even
think
the act of writing, I think, helps process.
Yeah.
Writing versus typing.
And so do you read a lot, or
I read a lot.
Okay.
I read a lot.
What kind of books do you read?
So I know it sounds whatever, but I really, really, really am drawn to just how the human body, mind, soul works. So anything connected to that, anything that's going to help me understand myself more, or understand others more, or to exist in relationship better, I'm fascinated with. I love understanding the alchemy of what makes a person, and unpacking that, and finding out, why you believe what you believe, or why you show up in the world the way you show up. Like, I want to understand that. I find it fascinating, because if I can understand that, then it's going to build a quicker bridge between you and I. And that's really fun to me. I really love having deep connections, now that I'm capable of holding them. And I just I love understanding how people tick, so that I can facilitate that connection. a little better, a little more
Have you read that book,
efficaciously.
Alchemy? Have you
I
read that?
have not. No.
Okay.
Who wrote that?
I totally forgot the name of the author. It's a
But
very
just
good
because of the
book.
title, I would want to read it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that book, and also there is another book called Men Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl.
I love Viktor Frankl, but I have not read that book. I've heard of it, obviously, but I have not read it.
So yeah, I mean, for me, I mean, I like books too, but of course, mostly is business books.
Yeah.
But I basically listen because that's how I
Yeah.
basically retain more information. If I'm reading a book, I might fall asleep.
Well, and I do both, because I spend a lot of time in the car, so I have an Audible
Yeah,
subscription,
yeah, yeah.
so I can listen. And I also love listening to podcasts too. So I do that in my car a lot. I do a lot of listening to things I
So
could read.
somebody is listening, who you recommend, like what kind of a book you would recommend or what kind of a podcast you recommend?
Yeah.
I mean, you can listen to our podcast.
Right. Yeah. This podcast. So a book for me, for the book for me in early sobriety, is a book by Laura McCowan, and it's called "We Are the Luckiest: The Surprising Magic to a Sober Life."
Okay.
That really appealed to me because she was so raw, so open, so vulnerable in it, and she also she also alludes. She also became a yoga instructor. She also really loves literature and poetry and philosophy like I do. So that's peppered in there. Those kinds of things are peppered in throughout. But what I really loved, it starts out in her book, it's the day after her brother's wedding. She got drunk at the wedding. She spent the night in a hotel room with one of the men who was in her brother's wedding. And she left her 3-year-old daughter in her hotel room alone.
Oh,
And the 3-year-old daughter is found wandering the halls of the hotel alone, looking for her in the morning, and her whole family is searching for her where she is. And she says, that should have been my rock bottom, but my rock bottom wasn't for like a year and a half later after that. Like she didn't stop drinking until a year and a half later. And she just very candidly goes through, tiptoeing into the rooms of AA, about the excruciating pain and humiliation that she endured through her own actions, much like myself, due to my own actions. But she just talks about it so beautifully, and it's not damning, this was my story in a way to like soften, just like you hear in the rooms of AA, as a way to soften your compassion towards yourself, She just offers you, this is my experience, and here it is, and I'm not going to hide any of it from you. And to me, and I think that's part of why you're doing this podcast, like to me, those are the things that affect humans the most, when you're sharing your honest story,
yes.
completely candidly, and another person sees a part of themselves in it, and their heart cracks open for you and for themselves a little bit. A little light gets in, a little compassion gets in. And I feel like nothing in life has made a quicker bond between me and another person than when they let me see behind the curtain, into their messiness. And what I find in the rooms of AA, and when I'm talking about sattva or my experience in this community, is that we're so afraid of being rejected, right? We're so afraid someone's going to see our dark sides or our dark parts or the things we're ashamed of. But when you're in a room of people who have gone through the same thing and you dare to share your story, the opposite is true. They feel really bonded to you instantly. And there's this trust because this person is showing me, their deepest, darkest stuff, and nobody flinches. There's just the room's filled with laughter a lot of the times. It's really beautiful.
I think people basically don't, like you said, it's not shared because of maybe the fear of rejection. And the rejection, actually, they say is actually it's the form of a protection.
Yeah.
Because you're protecting because you don't want to be rejected or something like that.
Exactly.
That story, because
Exactly.
people judge you. not the person you are, but the actions you basically take, kind of thing. And when you have these kind of issues, like alcohol or drugs or whatever,
Yeah.
then of course you don't want to share your, they call dark sides
Yeah.
to the people. But when you open up, when you have these walls in front of you, when you try to lower down the wall, then people can see the other side,
Right.
and then they can relate to that because
Yeah.
that's human nature.
Yeah. And that's the exact thing at this point in my life, and why I love doing this work with Sattva, and why I love the rooms of AA, because all of these people were there for me when I was terrified, when I didn't think I could do it, and they shared these stories that made me believe that maybe I could do it too. And so it keeps me really close to my program now, to be able to share my stories, like I'm going to do again at Cadis at 3:30 today. I get to go in and I get to share something I'm working on in myself, and how part of me is successful, part of me is not. But here's my story so that they can see something that maybe they want to try to reach, they can see or understand that they're having a similar struggle, and this is how she dealt with it, and she's sharing about it. So now I can share too, but it keeps me sober to be able to help somebody who's earlier on in their own sobriety, just like so many people were there for me to help me, strangers.
And that's actually the point with having this conversation, having on this podcast. That's the whole point, basically, with your story, with your struggles, your experiences, you can share with other people so they don't have to go through that you've been through, because you already have all that experience now.
Yeah.
No, I think it's very, very beautiful. So before we wrapped up, I know we touch about that, your struggles, but what was your, like what they call rock bottom, that, okay, that's it, I'm done with this?
I think it was that day I told you about where my body rejected the alcohol, but I kept drinking anyway. I was crying. I mean, I was on the bathroom floor in tears next to the toilet. I'd just thrown up all this vodka I forced myself to ingest. And I was waiting and I was feverish, and sweating, and crying, like bawling, crying. But I was also and then I had my face pressed to the floor just because it was cold. But I wasn't waiting to calm down so I could heal myself. I was waiting to calm down so I could do it again. And that was when I realized, like, what the hell are you doing? What are you doing to yourself, Is your goal to kill yourself? Because that's what you're going to do. Is your goal to break up your family? Because that's what you're going to do. Is your goal to not love yourself? Because you already don't, clearly, because you're doing this to the temple of your body. And I just knew the end of that tunnel, if I kept going, was going to be death or irreparable damage to my body or my family. And something in me decided that I wasn't going to do that anymore.
So did you get triggered quickly now, or are you still working on that?
Yeah, so you mean triggered to drink, or just triggered in general?
In general.
So I really don't think that I do as much. I absolutely get triggered. I get triggered by something every day, but I used to be a walking trigger.
And
everything used to trigger me.
Yeah.
Everything used to trigger me.
So how you basically, you come over that and control that?
Well, I know what they are now. I know what they are now. It doesn't mean that 100% of the times I react in the right way when I get triggered. But I understand a lot more about psychology now. I understand a lot more about my disease. So I can avoid it. I've yoga has taught me, and AA has taught me about the importance of giving myself space. So space between something happening and my reaction to it.
Yeah, that's a very famous line from the same book I'm talking about, The Men's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. He said, between stimulus and action, there's a space. And in that space, it's our power to choose our response in our response lies our freedom and happiness.
Yeah.
So
That's 10,000% true.
yeah.
10,000% true. And if I give myself that space and I take the time to breathe deeply, that's what I do there. I I I get to stay in my power. I get to stay in my integrity. You know, I get to not make somebody else bleed because I was feeling pain. And I think that's a very, very powerful thing to be able to do.
There's also a very famous quote from Eleanor Roosevelt. She said, "Nobody can make you upset without your consent." So it's on you. You know, you have a control over.
Yeah.
You cannot control other people's, but you can control you.
Exactly. And that's the basis of AA too. You know, control your controllables.
Yes.
Like understand that there's very little in life that we can control, but you can control your reactions. And I like myself so much better when I am steady and, like I said, when I'm not bleeding over somebody because I'm feeling pain. You know, it's a very comforting thing to be able to offer yourself solace.
So speaking about solace, so other like our listeners or viewers, if they're having these trigger issues like you've been, you know, having that, what's the advice you can give them here? You can basically
If they're being triggered by something.
yes.
Well, first, pause. That's the first thing. Pause. And it's very hard to do if you're not used to doing it because I would just go off. I would go off immediately. So give your pause. Walk away from the situation if you need to. You know, you can very compassionately talk to the person who is causing that trigger and say, I need to take 5, you know, give yourself space. If I have the luxury of it, I love to give myself overnight. Because
Overnight meaning like just
like if I have time to sleep on it, you know, and then understand my variables, you know, am I tired? Am I hungry? Did I get enough sleep? Am I whatever? Like, are these factoring into my reaction right now? I also have learned, you know, through therapy and reading on therapy that my triggers are my responsibility. So you might trigger me, but that's not your fault. That's not something you need to do with it. That's an opportunity for me to reflect on why I was triggered and handle that. But it's never your responsibility just because I can tell you upset me for your information. But it's up for me to figure out why I was upset and handle that myself.
yes. I mean, one of my mentor actually, you know, he says if somebody triggers you and something triggers you, it means that you need to work on that.
Yeah.
And basically, whoever triggers you, go shake hands with that person because it taught you.
It taught you something.
Yeah.
Yes, if you're willing to look at it.
Yes.
If you're willing to look at it. And I think that's a big thing too. Like for so long, I wasn't willing to look. And I mean, there's still things I'm not willing to look. We all have a shadow side, right?
Oh yeah, we all have a
It's subconscious too.
dark sides.
Yeah, and
according
much of it we can't see, you know, because it's repressed. But like your friend said, when you're triggered,
Yep.
like sometimes I don't even know why I'm triggered. I have to sit with that because it's something in my shadow self, you know, something that's hidden in my subconscious. So I really have to sit with it and figure out what's going on there. And it's not necessarily fun work, but it is always worth
yes. I mean, and every good thing is not a fun to do.
it. Yeah, it's not the best thing.
No.
I actually get sort of excited once I figure out what it is because I love to find a book on what that is and dig into myself. Like, but then there's the whole application process that I don't necessarily like. I'm like, this is fascinating to learn about myself, but then I have to apply it, and then it gets less exciting. But
So have you thought about writing a book about your story?
a little bit. I think about it sometimes because I do have some good stories, but I don't know if I'd want it to be a book, but
It will help other people.
I could do articles, like maybe, you know, like articles, short story type things. But yeah, I definitely think, you know, in AA we have speakers, we have guest speakers, and these are people who are used to sharing their story at different places, and they're always incredible because there's such a healthy dose of humility and deep, vulnerable, raw sharing, and humor, tons of humor that they'll pepper in there, and they're widely attended, and it's because of exactly that. Like when you can share your story with humility and with humor and with vulnerability and honesty, deep honesty and authenticity, and without flinching at your really hard past, it's extremely attractive, and it offers so much hope to people earlier on the path than you.
Wonderful, Tracy. It's a fascinating, basic conversation. We can keep going, but I know. Thank you so much again for coming on Knowledge Seeker podcast.
Farhan, thank you for having me, my friend.
Yes,
I appreciate you so much.
and I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
And so, if you wanna, like, people who don't know you, want to find you, what are the ways that they can find you?
Yeah, so they can find us on the web at www.thesattva project, and that's SATTV as in Victor A project.org, or they can find us on Instagram at the Sattva Project.
And we also put the links in the description too, so you can find it. Tracy, again, thank you so much.